Welcome to An American Story, Jewish and Muslim Perspectives, a virtual exhibit. In 2008, Betsy Nahum Miller conceived an original idea of using art as a medium to foster peace and understanding. With the help of Shirley Waxman, Saba Rahman, and Paul Falcon, they began to recruit Jewish, Muslim, and unaffiliated artists to bring this original idea to life. This 7-piece sculpture is the resulting creation. The original sculpture is comprised of 7 panels. Panel 1 describes many symbols of Islam, along with one of the oldest Jewish symbols, trees. Panel 2 includes the interior of the Mesquite Mosque in Cordoba, a symbol of the Islamic era in Spain. It also displays the Jewish wedding. Panel 3 is a 3-part painting portraying holiness and spirituality and the holidays and holy days of the Jewish year. Panel 4, a spiritual reflection, is one admires the beauty in nature, pondering on, quote, which of God's bounties can one deny, unquote. Panel 5 includes the Surah ar-Rahman illustrated by Ruby Sheriff and Sukkot, the Jewish harvest holiday. Panel 6 includes Sultan Ahmet Mosque, also known as Blue Mosque in Istanbul, Turkey, as well as Shabbat, the Jewish Sabbath. And finally, Panel 7 is a Muslim prayer room and the Jewish sanctuary, reflected within the 3-dimensional interior. Speaking out against injustice and inequality is a universal right. Inspired by the poem Bol, Speak Up by Faiz Ahmed Faiz, Lubna has made the act of speaking out the central theme of this series. Faiz, in his poem, urges us to speak freely, with dignity, and to be unafraid to state the truth. This set contains 6 paintings, and each panel contains the literal text, accompanied by imagery evoked by the verse using symbols and typography. This piece is inspired by Rumi's work, dated 1273. The black and gold clay pieces symbolize the burdens and struggles of life carried by us. These burdens are shed as the soul moves on to the next life. The surrounding lettering shows various typography details of the word soul. Deconstructed Shamsa, featuring a gold medallion set within deep ochre and inky black lines, interspersed with Punjabi couplets of the poet-philosopher Bulleh Shah, dated 1757, rendered in an angular contemporary format of the Shahmukhi script. Quote, you hasten to enter the mosque and the temple, having never stepped foot into the self. Unquote. The color blue is the color of water and life. In this piece, the word al-hayat, life, is written in contemporary Arabic calligraphy. Repetition of the word represents the continuous flow of water, like that of a waterfall. This quote was inspired by the book The Giving Tree by Shel Silverstein. The Kaaba has a special place in Muslims' hearts. It inspires peace and a deep connection to the Muslim Ummah, community bound together by ties of religion. The 7th blessing in the Jewish marriage ceremony, the formula for peace. The fish are an ancient Jewish tradition. The eye of a fish never closes, as it represents the watchful eye of God. Composed using fabrics and other items from all over the world. Includes fabrics from Ghana, Thailand, China, and India, and kenta cloth and olive wood beads from Israel. Created on a scrap of hemp with different embroidery materials, in honor of the universality of embroidery and the women who have created similar pieces with little to work with. The Book of Numbers states that a Jew must wear a thread of blue with fringes at the 4 corners of one's garment to remind one of the 613 commandments in the Torah. This prayer shawl is based on the shape of the biblical garment, with contemporary stripes and dyed silk fabrics from Thailand, India, and Uzbekistan. This figure yearns for a more just world. This American landscape was inspired by the work of Antonio Frasconi, who came to the United States from Uruguay. Hope is the thing with feathers, according to Emily Dickinson. Ruth's bird, like Dickinson's, sings whether there is gale or storm, rain or shine, good times or bad. Ruth's grandmother had to flee her home in Russia after a violent pogrom. When her father found her typing leaflets against the Tsar, he ordered her to leave because he thought she was endangering her large family. She was 17. Here she is contemplating the journey she is about to make. Express compassion for those who experience continued racism in our society. A memory palace is a mnemonic device in which a mental construct contains rooms with objects that will assist in the retrieval of information. Ruth's memory palace helps her remember the poems her father taught her when she was a child. For example, the chair calls forth Leigh Hunt's poem, Jenny Kissed Me. With the help of her palace, Ruth can still recite most of the poems symbolized here. A young activist spreading alarming news. Quote, "There is trouble all over this world, yes," unquote, is a line from a spiritual that is performed by the Alvin Ailey Dance Company. The dancers inspired this work. A protest against all civil rights infractions and violations, inspired by Ezra Lazarus's The New Colossus. Quote, "Keep ancient lands your storied pomp," cries she, with silent lips. "Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free." Unquote. Together we are stronger. We, the people, stand for equality, justice, freedom, and liberty. A representation of the repair of the world as stated in the Alinu. A resist material was used to write the prayer in calligraphy to contrast with the dark blue sky. Elie Weisel, a Holocaust survivor, was an acclaimed author, professor, and Nobel Peace Prize winner. He committed his life to being a tireless advocate for refugees and victims of oppression worldwide. A representation of the 12 tribes from which all Jews are descended. The burning bush is a representation of God's presence when he spoke to Moses. The bush burns, but it is not consumed. This piece, inspired by Martin Luther King Jr.'s words, quote, "The arc of the moral universe is long, but bends toward justice," unquote, represents periods of travail when oppression, injustice, and fear-mongering attempted to limit basic human rights. The contrasting light signifies the hope of finding the path to justice. This piece represents the city of Thessaloniki, also known as Salonika, as pictured by the artist when her grandmother left for a better life in America. The painting represents her interpretation of her grandmother leaving and leading a city that would become home. Feeling the power of the moment, these two women raise hands together, chanting, "Women's rights are human rights," as they march through the streets of Washington, D.C. Women young and old, of all colors and faiths, along with men and children, stood together in solidarity to support women's rights. They gathered at women's marches in January 2017 in Washington, D.C., around the country and around the world, participating in our First Amendment rights of freedom of peaceful assembly and freedom of speech. Over generations, immigrants have come to America to share our freedoms. For many, the pink hats are a symbol of support for women's rights. If America is not vigilant, women risk losing rights that others won through long struggles.